hindsight is woefully inaccurate. This is something, it's kind of late, but it was like a topic I was kind of thinking about. Um, Something that I tend to do, and I've seen a lot of friends of mine tend to do, and I've seen, yeah, just like with people in general, some of my clients I've seen it, definitely a lot of my friends, and sometimes it happens if you're a goal oriented person too, that you kind of tend to look back at your life or at different parts of your life and think that, like, oh man, like I had stuff together then, or life was good back then and it's not as much right now, or like, oh, when I had like life back then, however it was perfect and it felt like it was perfect, but then right now maybe it's not so much. But then if you were to in reality go back to that time and go to your like subjective perception at that time, and perception of like what your life was actually like at that time, I'm sure like how you're looking back at it right now wouldn't be an accurate reflection. It's like, it's kind of like you're looking at it a certain way, but it wasn't actually that good. You don't remember what it was like back then. It's a memory. And when if you were to go back to to the reality of that past moment, you would see that no, in fact, like you were probably tripping out. There's probably a lot of things going wrong. Probably you were emotionally kind of going crazy about like a few different things, and maybe you didn't have your stuff together. You didn't have your shit together, versus compared to how you do in the future right now. And we tend to look back and think that, oh, like we had life so good back then, but a lot of the time that's not necessarily the case. And I find that there's different kinds, like as a human being you can have focus on the past, focus on the present, focus on the future. And I think something that is ideal is to kind of focus on the future, on goals, where you want your relationships to go and where you want your work or your goals to go, and then like kind of a future focus, and then enjoying the present moment. The present is beautiful and it's something that you won't get back. Even the things that you're doing wrong in the present, or that you're not doing as efficiently as you could, the present moment is beautiful, it's wonderful. It's something that, for like all the ups and downs of it, like that you'll never get back, and you want to treasure it, because I mean, the present is ideal and it's one of a kind, and it's something that really is once in a lifetime. You'll never experience it again. You'll never be that same version of yourself that you were in that second, in that moment of that day, that you would be, I mean, a day later, a week later, a year later, in that present moment, like you are who you are. And I think what's ideal is if you in the present you kind of keep a future focus of where you're going, where you're heading, and what you want to kind of be going towards and working towards. But other than that, like you're kind of focused on the present, and then don't dwell too much on the past, because when you do it that way, then I mean, it kind of keeps your focus in the right place. Like you're focused on enjoying the present while building towards the future. So you're not hedonistic. You're not like going into I mean, seeking like pleasure for the sake of pleasure. Like you can be kind of goal oriented, but at the same time you can be really appreciative of the future, and like of how far, or of the present and how far you've come and stuff. Um, so I think that's kind of ideal, is that in the present moment you appreciate and enjoy the present, and then you kind of work towards the future, what you are, your goals, and building your relationships better and stuff with your friends and family and other people in your life. And and then, yeah, when we look back at the past, like there are lessons to learn from the past. And but our viewpoint in general, like as human beings, is like a skewed, flawed perception. Like we only see certain things, and there are blind spots that we don't see. There are things that we can't see also because of our ego, and we really need other people to look at things. And we need ourselves a lot of the time to look at things. So like, if we look at the past, like, and we see things a certain way, it kind of is an inaccurate reflection. But then if you have like a video from the past, or you have like things you wrote down from the past, like something went wrong and you wrote down like a lesson of why it went right or why it went wrong, then that's sort of an accurate, objective reflection, objective documentation of like what happened during that time, you know. And even then you can kind of lie and say it a certain way or perceive it a certain way, but it's still more objective than how you would look back at it like 6 months from now or a year from now, you know. If you look at it memory wise, and it's like that for me, and like I look back, I was like, man, like I had life together back then and like I don't now, and things are going crazy, and like what am I doing with my life? And I look back, but then I don't have to go too far. Like I go and read like a journal from that time or something I wrote at that time, and like, yeah, like I was going crazy, or maybe things were going wrong, or like I had all these other problems. And that's the thing to realize too, is that you look back a lot of these times and you feel like, oh, like back then I didn't have problems, and back then everything was perfect and good, but it wasn't. It really wasn't, and you had problems then. And ideally, you always want to have problems. Like you have a lot of problems now, and you will in the future. And I've had these moments where I felt like, oh, like I don't have any problems at all. Like when you're in that position in life where you feel like you don't have any problems at all, that's a huge problem in itself. That means that there are realities that you're not accepting, or you're not realizing or seeing or observing or understanding. That means that there's problems that are there, that are like latent, they're hidden, and like you aren't kind of seeing them and like realizing them, you know, or paying attention to them. And in those moments where I felt like everything is perfect, it was because like I was doing something or different things that kind of kept me distracted, you know, whether that was like long ridiculous work hours, or taking I don't know, certain supplements or something, where like basically like things that will kind of distract your mind and skew your perception and make you feel like everything's okay when it really isn't, because everything isn't okay. Like typically it isn't, and in general it isn't, and you want to have problems in your relationships, in your friendships, in your work, and everything. Life should be cycles, and the goal shouldn't be perfection. It should be to continue to cycle on upwards. And it will be cyclical, but you want to make progress over time. You want to the goal should be evolution, um, and not just reaching an arrival point of perfection where nothing is wrong and everything is perfect. um, like human beings, we are built and born to adapt, to evolve, and to have things go wrong, to have problems, and then go through these evolutions and these cycles, and continue to go on onto higher levels and become different versions of ourselves. Um, so yeah, when you look at the past, it was a different kind of past version of you, and it's not necessarily better or worse, but it was still you, just in a different shape or form. And you can kind of learn from the lessons of the past, and I think documentation is important. So like making videos like this, or writing or journaling, or like keeping like for my training and my lifting, I'll keep like journals of all my lifts and stuff. And you really see it as ups and downs, and like the past, like we tend to look at the past and think that it was perfect, or like we had like everything together back then, but we didn't. A lot of the time we didn't. Maybe majority of the time we didn't, and there was like things that were going wrong. But especially if you can write stuff down or document it, you can learn a lot from the past, and you can learn from past versions of yourself. um, I watch videos of myself I have when I was like 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. I was like a bright kid. I don't know. I like looked like a kid who had his shit together. And I'm sure if I look at this video like in the future, I'll look like someone who had their shit together. Where like right now in the present, I feel like I don't, and there's like all these problems and things going wrong. But that's okay, and that's kind of how it should be. And you want things to be going wrong a little bit, as long as it's not going wrong so much that it knocks you out of the game, that you like can't play anymore. Whether that be you lose all your money, or you destroy all your relationships, or you um, get so injured from training that you can't like function or do anything. Um, but yeah, the goal should be evolution. The goal should be just gradual progress over time. And going up in cycles over time. So those are just some of my thoughts. Oh, and then yeah, the documentation is important because that way you can kind of glean lessons from the past, from things that might have gone right or wrong, from what you've learned and studied and observed, and and just your experiences, and you get to like kind of document like more accurately like your reflections and your memories of what you might have been going on, what you might have been experiencing or going through at that time, and all of that is very valuable, so that you can learn from it, so that you can grow from it, and so that you can um, look back at it and gain lessons from it, but also so that, I mean, just to have the fulfillment and the joy of the memories of it, you know, like that it's something you said or did, and like you had really experienced that, you know. It's like the adventure, but you can kind of see it, and it's like, yeah, it's an adventure, but it's your life. And man, I have a lot of things like that too, like things I did when I was like 5, 6 years old that I was like, fuck, that's so crazy that I did that. And like I did it, you know, like me as the person, like video games that I beat when I was like 6 or 7 years old, like that was insanely hard. And same like training cycles that I've done in past months, and I was like, whoa, like that was so hard and so difficult, but I did it. And that's kind of the point, is that you go and you've done stuff in the past, but in the present there's some things that you can do and other things you can't, and in ways you get better over time, but in other ways you're sort of the same person, and you're just a human being at the end of it all. So yeah, those are just some thoughts on that topic, and like that's how I kind of feel like the past should be looked at. Like, should you dwell on the past? Should you reflect on the past? Yes, but like you should, but I mean, when it looks like everything was perfect, it probably wasn't, and there are probably ups and downs, and the past serves part to appreciate and enjoy it, part to appreciate how far you've come and like appreciate the memories, part to gain lessons from it and learning from it, and then I say live in the present, appreciate and truly rejoice and experience and enjoy to the fullest the present, and build for the future, because the future will be really good potentially, and the human race is progressing towards something revolutionary, and it's going in that direction, and the world is changing rapidly, and it's up to us as the individual human beings to change in that way too. So yeah, those are just some of my thoughts on that topic, and there could be a lot more that could be said, but yeah, build for the future, and don't dwell too negatively or positively on the past. I mean, the past is the past, but just kind of appreciate it, and gain some wisdom from it, but then don't spend too much time like looking back at it, or too much time dwelling on it, because the present is beautiful, and something that should be experienced and really enjoyed and kind of worked on today in the present moment, and the future is unknown and can be something bold and beautiful as well.